going to start.
It's on. There you go.
Okay. This is a reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd canto. It's chapter 30, verse 32. And this is a translation by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada, founder of Jari of the International Society of Krishna Consciousness. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Narayanam Namaskritam Naram Chev Narottamam Devim Sanjitim Vyasam Tatrudayo Adivayet Nastri Presu Bhadresu Nicham Bhagavata Sevya Bhakti Uttamaskoke Bhakti Bhagavati Naistaki. By regular attendance in classes on Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed. Loving service unto the Supreme Lord, who is praised through transcendental songs, becomes established as an irrevocable fact. Now, could someone pass me a Bhagavad Gita, please? What's your good names?
Lionel.
Laura.
Lionel.
Laura.
So would you?
A Bhagavad Gita. Oh, if you've got one. Should have. Yeah, that's it. And your good name is?
Devyach.
Devyach. Okay, I'm an Anthony Tom. Okay. Right. Okay, I'll just read the Sanskrit. Devyanya satayam tasya shamalayam natyayad pamam bhukti kutamba pasasya vidya vita ivaturaha. Would anyone like to repeat? Divyas Vina Satadiptam Tasya Samadayam Narya Pumana Bhunkiti Kutabum Prosasya Vita Vita Ivaturaha. Devena, if you repeat after me, Devena, by the arrangement of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Asatitam, obtained. Tasya, his. Shamlam, samalam, sinful reaction. Niraye, in a hellish condition. Pumam, the man. Bhunkiti, undergoes. Kutumba Posasya, of maintaining a family. Vida Vititaha, one whose wealth is lost. Eva, like. Aturaha, suffering. Translation by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada Ki. Thus, by the arrangement of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the maintainer of kingsmen is put into a hellish condition to suffer for his sinful activities, like a man who has lost his wealth. If you repeat after me, thus. By the arrangement of the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
By the arrangement of the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
The maintainer of kingsmen. Is put into a hellish condition. To suffer for his sinful activity. Like a man who has lost his wealth. Purport by the Divine Grace of Prabhupada. The example set herein is that the sinful person suffers just like a man who has lost his wealth. The human form of body is achieved by the conditioned soul after many, many births, and is a very valuable asset. Instead of utilizing this life to get liberation, If one uses it simply for the purpose of maintaining his so-called family, and therefore performs foolish and unauthorized action, he is compared to a man who has lost his wealth, and who, upon losing it, laments. When wealth is lost, there is no use lamenting, but as long as there is wealth, one has to utilize it properly, and thereby gain eternal profit. It may be argued that when a man leaves his money earned by sinful activities, he also leaves his sinful activities here with his money. But it is especially mentioned herein that by superior arrangement, although the man leaves behind him, although the man leaves behind him his sinfully earned money, he carries the effect of it. When a man steals some money, if he is caught and agrees to return it, he is not free from criminal punishment by the law of the state. Even though he returns the money, he has to undergo the punishment. Similarly, the money earned by criminal process may be left by the man when dying, but by superior arrangement, he carries with him the effect, and therefore he has to suffer hellish life. So, quite simple. Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dantikam Swadantikam. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torch of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Hare Hare. I'll just read the translation again. The arrangement of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the maintainer of kingsmen is put into a hellish condition to suffer for his sinful activities, like a man who has lost his wealth. So yeah, it's very simple principles which are highlighted in the purport. So one, we're not the controller. We're not the supreme controller. And it's thus by arrangement of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the maintainer of kingsmen is put into hellish conditions to suffer for his sinful activities, like a man who has lost his wealth. So if we just going through the motions of life, looking after home, family, children, etc., not utilising this body for its real purpose, which is to gain knowledge about devotional service to the Supreme Lord and to execute that devotional service. So if we just, like it says in the purport, we've got this body after billions and trillions and millions of lifetimes in this material world, and we come to the human platform. And on the human platform, very special. And Pants described it as a spot life. So the spot life, very short. Human life is very short. How old are we?
Me?
Yes. How old is your
24.
mum?
24.
24.
Yeah.
And
38.
38. 38. Wow. Oh, I'm 59. It goes quick. That's all I can say. It goes quick. It goes very quickly. An interesting thing about when we're young, a day seems like a month. When we're 4 or 5 years old, a day seems so long. And someone highlighted to me why that's so. And when you grow up, when you're in 30s, 40s, 50s, the day goes really quickly. A year starts flying by. And someone highlighted that when you're 1 year old, half your life is 6 months. So you have to fit 6 months into half your life. But when you're 30, half your life is 15 years. So you have to squeeze 15 years into half your life. And that's one of the reasons why time seems to go so quickly. Not the only reason. But anyway, I thought it was very interesting. So we've got this human form of life, and unless we utilise it for God realisation, then basically we utilise it for, well, what's the point of life? Oh, I'm not sure. Oh, might as well enjoy. So we mistakenly think we go to the common level of enjoyment. Since everyone else is enjoying, then I'll enjoy, because well, what else is there to do? So people trying to enjoy the body through the senses, through the mind, to the taste buds, through the vision, through hearing, through touch, all sorts of ways to enjoy the body. But also, unusually, the body gives you a lot of pain. So you have this little finger, you can't get a lot of pleasure from this finger. You get a lot of pleasure from this finger? Not really. When someone smashed it with a hammer, smashed it to bits with a hammer, you get a lot of pain. So it's a strange phenomenon that we're going through life, we're gliding through life, and we're getting a little bit of happiness. But if we study our lives, and we actually had in hospital we have these little charts, daily charts about how well the patient's doing. If you could actually count up how many days you had flu, how many days you had indigestion, how many days this, how many days that, you had some disease, or you felt unbetter. How many days somebody upset you? How many days it was raining and you were depressed? So if you looked at that chart, you go, so many days when you weren't happy. But you were happy at some points, so that's okay. That justifies everything. Because we're happy, so-called happy, that justifies everything. So we must go on as we are, because we've been happy, and that's justified our existence. So the problem is that when we approach the scriptures, the problem is we don't approach the scriptures. That's the problem. We approach Srimad Bhagavatam, nectar of instruction, nectar of devotion, teachings of Lord Chaitanya, Srimad Bhagavatam, which we're reading at the moment. When we approach Chaitanya Charitamrita, then they highlight all these things that you can't possibly be happy without love of God. At the moment we're separated from God because of the illusion that we want to be God. And I want to be in the job. Krishna's in the spiritual world. Krishna's number one. He's number one here, but we don't recognise that. We don't want to recognise that. Krishna's number one, and everything is in harmony around Krishna in the spiritual world. Everything is in harmony. But here in the material world, we've forgotten Krishna. By the mercy of Krishna, we've forgotten Krishna, because if we don't forget Krishna, then we have to forget Krishna if we want to enjoy. So Krishna, somehow or other, we became envious of Krishna in the spiritual world. Two types of living beings, according to the Srimad Bhagavatam. There's Nitya Siddhas and Nitya Bhadas. The Nitya Siddhas, they never fall down from the spiritual platform. They never forget that the Lord and the living entity eternally glitter. They have an eternal relationship with the Supreme, and they have a relationship as a subordinate and the Supreme as the dominant. But within that relationship, they experience extreme bliss, pure bliss, eternity knowledge. And for some reason, when we've been conditioned with Nitya Bhadas, we think, oh, when we have this tendency to fall down, oh, I wonder what it'd be like to be the supreme enjoyer, to be the centre of everything. And Krishna's sort of saying, do you really want to find out? Well, if you want to find out, you can go to the material world, but I reckon you go there. I don't think that'd be a good idea. But no, to go, curiosity killed the cat and all that stuff. So we come down to the material world. And now we've been in these bodies, these bags of flesh since time immemorial. And we're fortunate to come across, by mercy of Guru and Krishna, fortunate enough to come across this knowledge, which is actually highlighting our position in this material world. And this knowledge is very rare, it's detailed, it's pure, it's unchangeable, and it acts on the heart. And when it's presented by a pure devotee, obviously Srila Prabhupada is the founder of Hare Krishna, the founder of Charya, is a pure Bhagavatam devotee, very, very advanced, pure devotee of the Lord. And it was stated 500 years ago that Lord Chaitanya, I will send my Senipati Bhakta to spread the chanting of the holy names all over the world. And from the activities of Srila Prabhupada, you can tell that this is the person that Lord Chaitanya was referring to. So here it is, his purports, which are his ecstasies. He's highlighting what our position is in the material world. So we've come to this material world, and the material world consists of, for the living entities, it's consisting of sleeping, eating, mating and defending. And this is animal life. And without that inquiry, without the inquiry of who am I, what's going on, is there a God, without that inquiry, we're no better than animals. Because the animals sleep, eat, mate and defend. That's what they do. They suffer. If you want to watch all these animal life films on YouTube, you can see they're suffering like we are. But there's one difference. They're not introspective. They're not thinking, why am I suffering? They just get on with it. If they survive, they get on with it. And there's no retrospect. They're not thinking, well, why am I suffering so much? I was suffering last week. I was suffering the year before. They don't think like that. They just get on from moment to moment. And whatever happens to them, they have to get over it. They experience fear. They experience pleasure and grief. You see, one was grieving for another, that had died. He was nudging up to him, why are you talking to me? Couldn't really understand what death is. I mean, humans don't understand what death is unless they have knowledge. So, here we are. So this is the point. So why would someone get a reaction for bringing up a family? So what's wrong with that? You've done, it's very responsible, very moralistic, bringing up a family, or quite an austere occupation. It is austere. What's wrong with that? So here we have the answer. Instead of utilising this life to get liberation, if one uses it simply for the purpose of maintaining his so-called family, and therefore performs foolish and unauthorised action, is compared to a man who has lost his wealth, and who upon losing it laments. When wealth is lost, there is no use lamenting. But as long as there is wealth, one has to utilise it properly and thereby gain eternal profit. So this is the point. We're here for purpose. One shouldn't raise a family, one should get married, one shouldn't raise kids, one should be a teacher, unless one can liberate his dependence from the repetitive cycle of birth and death. So a normal material life, that doesn't even enter the equation. Most people don't accept that the reincarnation. They probably don't even know about reincarnation. They don't know what reincarnation is. They've heard the word, or something about you come back again. But dismiss it without actually making the inquiry. Okay, what is reincarnation? What is that all about? And from making a scientific, philosophical investigation, then they'll come to the right conclusion. If they're reading the, authorised books in Prabhupada's system, they'll come to the right conclusion. That here we're stuck as embodied soul travels in this body from boyhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly travels into another body at death. So this is basically reincarnation, is what Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, the 2nd chapter. So he's defining it. A sober person, someone who knows things as they are, is not bewildered by such a change. So sober means person with knowledge. Person with knowledge will not be, seeing funerals, you get people who are in grief. It's not nice, obviously, but in grief, you should not grieve when people have left their body. There's no reason for grief. They've gone on to ultimately, everyone is going back to the spiritual world. So there's another step in their journey. How close they're going back to the spiritual world, we may or may not know. But there's no reason for lamentation on that sort of part. But if there'd been a devotee, a very special dear devotee of the Supreme Personality Godhead, you may lament. There'll be separation. If a spiritual master dies, you should lament, because you've lost somebody very dear. Association in spiritual life is very important. So when we're bereft of association, we should lament. Also, if we make mistakes in spiritual life, we should lament. And we should lament if we're not making progress, if Krishna isn't dancing on your tongue, if you haven't got love of God, we should be lamenting, we should be crying out for the mercy of the spiritual master, the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. Hare Krishna. So using this life for the purpose of self-realization is extremely important. So here's the difference between a family that's engaged in material activities and a family that's engaged in spiritual activities. One's called Grihamaidi, and the other Grihamaidi is if you're engaged in material activities, and the Grihastha is engaged in spiritual activity. The Grihastha recognizes that their house belongs to Krishna, and it's Krishna's house. And they'll have deities in the house, may or may not, but usually they have deities. But the point is that their lives, their existence is dedicated to God. And sex indulgence is utilised properly for procreation of God-conscious children. How is that? So again, this is the science and the philosophy. So when two people come together for procreation, their consciousness must be high. It can't be animal life consciousness. It can't be consciousness under the modes. I got drunk and then we procreated. A lot of people say that. But people don't follow a spiritual path. They get drunk and they oh, my wife's fallen pregnant. Oh, isn't that lovely? I think it's some romantic thing. Very mental stuff. Very strange. But the procreation it's a science, it's philosophy. So if we chant 50 rounds of the Hare Krishna mantra, the male and the female chant 50 rounds of the devotee, the female devotee, the male devotee chant 50 rounds of the Hare Krishna mantra before they procreate, then they will attract a higher soul into the womb. And it's quite interesting. And it's sort of called, what's it called? Sama Gandharva, no, it's a Gandharva, it'll come to me. It's a particular name of, it's a samskara, a particular samskara, the name will come to me in a moment. I can't pronounce it properly. Sama Gandharva, something like that. It's a particular sort of name where you come together, you perform this austerity to elevate your consciousness, to attract higher souls into human society.
Sannyas?
No, it's it's not Gandharva. I keep saying Gandharva. It'll come to me, don't worry. It's not sannyas. Don't worry. I should know this one. So family life, it's full of these austerities, these spiritual practices. I'm still trying to remember this one. Full of these spiritual practices which will elevate the family members, and it begins before birth, which is interesting. So their whole lives are dedicated to spiritual practices. Samskara, Bhagavatam, Samskara, that was it. Bhagavatam, Samskara, thank you. Yeah, what it's called. And if we perform it, then we'll attract higher souls into this material world. And one who is performed they'll actually be more intelligent straight away, and they'll be attracted to spiritual principles. They simple, really. You can see it by you know something, you judge something by its fruits. But no matter what, whether we perform it or not perform it, if we're born into a family of devotees, we're very fortunate, and we'll have a much better performing spiritual life if we're born into a family of devotees. So obviously most of us may not be born in that situation, and we've come across the books, come across the devotees. We may have heard the Harinams in the street. Notice I say Harinams. In the street, I heard Harinam. Yeah, 50 years ago, but not 50 years ago, 40 years ago, I heard the Harinam in Birmingham city centre, and that stuck with me. Actually stuck with me. Harinam is very important, so important for spreading this movement. Somehow or other, we have to bring that into our life, regular practice to congregationally chant on the street. But indirectly, we have to do this. Otherwise, people in this day and age, I've seen this in England. I've been around, I distribute books, bike and camp out, things like this. I've been around, small towns, mostly in the south of England. I know there's one place called Stevenage. I was thinking, oh man, the attention span, probably a couple of minutes. These people couldn't read books, forget it. And so their only hope is Prashadam or Harinam. That's their only hope. Their only hope for salvation, spiritual salvation. But actually, take this seriously. You should seriously get into chanting the holy name of the Lord. It starts with japa. It starts with hearing and reciting, and then Kirtan. Kirtan is congregational chanting for the benefit, for glorification of the Lord before the deity. When we chant together, it's very powerful. Chanting on your own, not so powerful, but at least do it. So japa is like Andrew would say, it's like taking the medicine, tablets, but when Kirtan, it's about 100 times more powerful. And then when you take it out on the street, it's 100 times more powerful again. So you get get about 1,000 times the benefit just by doing it on the street. So important. Lord Chaitanya said we should be chanting on the doorsteps. People can't play instruments just by clapping. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. This is in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Say before you sit down to have a meal, so you can go outside, just chant for a few minutes, and that will make Lord Chaitanya very happy. It'll make Krishna very happy. And if you meet someone, says hello, whatever, you can invite them in for a meal. And that's culture. That's Vaishnava culture. So when I approach the doors with my books, they go, oh, sorry, we're having a way. That's not culture. It's just, well, would you like to come in? Are you hungry? That is culture. Because where did your food come from? It comes from God. It comes from Mother Earth. And then all the necessities for food, growing the food, sunlight, it's all coming with rain, it's all coming from the Supreme. And so we can't even claim it's ours. So this is why we should offer our food to the Supreme. This is what they do in Gurmedi life. In material life, in Vyasa life, in Gurmedi life, they don't do that. They just eat. This food is for me, it's for my stomach. And if you get more than me, then that's not good. So all these, lust, greed, envy, madness, all there. It's all there on the material platform. And it's what's in it for me. This is what household life is all about. Without glorification of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, it's all about what's in it for me. And that's all society is about, to be quite. And it's promoted in the films. It's promoted in the books, in the literatures, in the cinema, the radio, whatever, the newspapers. What's in it for me? That's the mantra. But it doesn't get us anywhere. It doesn't get us. Then no one's happy. People are frustrated and unhappy. The moment you start to help somebody, someone said this one, the devotee said this, Vishwanath, I think, from the man, he said this when he was in the moment you start to help someone, immediately you're thinking not about yourself, you're thinking about that person, and that's when your spiritual life begins, when you start helping someone else. A very simple thing. I mean, technically you can argue with the person on the path. The moment you start helping someone else, the moment you think of someone else, that's when you're making your steps towards the spiritual life. So the sinful person, there's one thing I would notice, the more self-centered we are, the more unhappy we are. But if we're thinking of other people, then it's just a very simple thing. It's a simple point. If we think of other people, helping other people, then that takes that focus on ourselves is dissipated. It goes away. So automatically you're uplifted. Something I was going to say.
How long have
Everyone all right?
Sorry.
Hare Krishna.
Just asking.
Hare Krishna. Were you on the street a few weeks ago? Yes.
Distributing books.
Oh yeah, yes. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Very good. Very good. You were still distributing books?
No, not. Yeah.
Oh, good. Continue. Yeah, that's good. Good. Yes. Yeah, and also we were discussing. Yeah, distribution is important because we were discussing about family life. What family life that's a spiritual dimension, and family life that's just material. And how if it's just material, then we're wasting this opportunity of human life which we have. And the goal of human life is to get love of God, resurrect our loving propensity to the Supreme Personality of God. So in this material world, we're struggling for happiness in the material world. And really you can't get it. Why can't you get it? Well, as I mentioned earlier, we've got birth, death, old age and disease to contend with. So it's assuming that we live a long time, even if we live a long time, things come to an end, so it's temporary. We want happiness that doesn't go away, but you can see in your parents' lives, in your relatives' lives, that there's times they're happy, there's times they're unhappy. So happiness is flickering. It's flickering. Actually, Srila Prabhupada said that happiness is a removal of suffering. There's no actual happiness in the material world. It's a removal of suffering. You could say that, oh, I'm happy when I'm playing computer games. Well, that's just removed your boredom. You're bored, which is a type of suffering. So it's removed that. So that's why you're happy playing computer games. But eventually you may get bored, hopefully, get computer games. So this is just an interesting point that Srila Prabhupada points out. What else? So you've got miseries arising from the elements, miseries arising from other living entities, miseries arising from the mind and the body. So you've got all these things, these kleshas, all these things that we're up against, and that the soul is up against, because the soul is misidentifying, and it's trying to get pleasure. Instead of getting pleasure by serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead, it's trying to get pleasure, but through serving, through the senses, and through the obviously pleasure from the sense objects, and it's thinking that it's identifying with dead matter, which has got nothing to do with us. So it's an illusion. So here it's mentioning about forming sinful life, and then you leave your body. It's saying that your sinful reactions are left behind, but actually reactions go with you, because Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and there's a whole arrangement behind this material world is very clinical. You don't get away with anything, nothing you get away with. And in the short term, we may think, oh, this person did that, he was so mean, he was so nasty, he's so rich, this is happening to him, that's it. He seems to be happy and not getting what he deserves. But rest assured, he will get, or she will get what they deserve. Because they don't get away with it. They do not get away with it. And you can see in our own life when things happen. It's interesting to say that, so when bad so-called happening to us, we've got karma coming, and well, that's it. Because at death it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And when good things happen to us, then okay, good things have come, don't bask in it. You know, okay, that's nice, it's happened, let's get on with the life, let's get on. Because remember, this is the thing, for me anyway, you know, death is only around the corner. And if you've had a near experience, has anyone had a near death experience?
Read about it.
You've read about it? Okay, I had a near death. And I won't go into details, but anyway, I'm pretty sure I clock it, that was it. Alright. And somehow or other I survived. You know, I was drowning basically, and I was going down for a line, and then my foot hit a ledge, and I was able to get up. But I thought that was it. But the one thing I realised is it doesn't matter how successful you are in life or how much of a failure you are, it doesn't matter. It's gone. Death isn't bothered. So that you take with you, obviously, but that's there. But your spiritual acumen, take with you. Whatever spiritual you've got, they will go with you. So that's why it's important to, you know, whatever we can do spiritually, we should do. Doesn't matter how small it is. As long as there's something, because that will go with you. The karma, well, you know, good karma, bad karma, it will be burnt off eventually, whether in this life or the next life. That's going to go anyway. But what will stay with you is your spiritual bank accounts, if you like, your spiritual activities. They will stay with you. So very important to take this knowledge and apply ourselves. Just in the books, who chants here? You chant? Who chant? You chant?
I chant some mantra.
You chant?
Like some mantra. Not really.
You should try it. Hare Krishna, the Maha mantra, the great mantra. What do you chant?
I have some mantra done by some.
Is that secret mantra?
Yes.
Oh, don't tell anyone. Alright, okay. There's a story of a great chariot, and I can't remember who it was, but he was given a secret mantra by his guru, and he went out and he started telling everyone. This is why you're telling everyone. This is well, if it's as good as you say, then everyone should know. Why keep it to yourself? So this is the point.
Yeah.
So the mantra, the only thing the secret about it is people know the amazing benefits of the mantra. Very beneficial. In this age, it's called the Maha mantra. In Kali Yuga, chanting the God's holy names is very beneficial, especially the Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. This is called the great mantra for deliverance. And it's very important to read these books. Have you read Bhagavad Gita? Have you read anything else? Have you read Bhagavatam?
No.
No, Srimad Bhagavatam is very good.
No. I will try.
Yeah, and it will convince you to chant the Maha mantra. Well, you're chanting some mantra, which is good. Are you vegetarian?
No.
Okay. Good to go vegetarian if you can.
I see.
Good for the body.
Yeah.
It's not our body. It belongs to God, Krishna. So we should put good things into our body. Someone came up to you and started saying bad things, you wouldn't like it. You say, you can go away, you can choose to go away, but your stomach can't choose to go away. When we put bad things into the stomach, it's got no choice, you just got to accept it. And then from that you get all sorts of diseases. I'm just saying, you know.
No.
No one has ever been healed by meat. Nobody. Right? So let me say that. So in Bhagavad Gita it says, Krishna says of herbs, a healing herb. And you see this in nature, things a diet called celery diet, celery juice. If you something like 16 ounces of celery juice, which you juice yourself in the morning, 2 cups of that day, your problems, a lot of your health problems will go. Very simple thing. You really get into wine stuff, but basically it's a very, very nutritious food to have. And we eat junk. This is junk. I was on a green mungdal. I was eating green mungdal in Surrey Street about a couple of weeks ago. I cooked it myself. I cooked some for the devotees and had some for myself because I know it's a good Ayurvedic diet. It's very nutritious, and you boil it up and you add black salt, black pepper, and turmeric. And the principle behind it is that you put it in. You put a simple thing into your body that your body can digest. Then the body will know how much energy it will have left, and that energy will heal your body. So if you eat the same thing every day, which is very difficult to do if you're moving around, if you eat the same, but at least it's simple. If you eat the same thing every day, your body will have reserves of energy to heal itself. But if you throw in everything, what am I going to have to throw this in? Throw everything in, and your stomach's going, oh my God, what's going to hit me next? So I noticed, the one thing I noticed when I was eating this mungdal, I tried, they gave me some of the steamed vegetables, which are supposed to be nutritious. It tasted like nothing. It just tasted like nothing. There's nothing in them. How is it compared to the mungdal? There's nothing in them. It's only tasteless. I thought there's no nutritional value in these whatsoever. They're just husks to eat. That's it. That's why you need to grow your own food. You can really get into this. So the interesting thing about another thing about, I don't want to stray too much on the topic of the sinful person about bringing up a family on his own account, even the garden, in your back garden. It says in scripture, if you have a back garden and you don't utilise it for growing things, you're sinful. You should utilise it for growing food. If you have a back garden, most people utilise it for growing them pretty plants that you can't eat. Now, what's the point of that? I mean, and if Tesco's closes down, what are you going to do? We have complete and utter faith in Tesco's. Don't we? Because if we didn't have complete and utter faith in Tesco's, we'd be growing food in our back garden. Because Tesco's isn't always going to be there. So what are we going to do when Tesco's isn't there? You're going to starve, like everybody else. The fact that we're following a spiritual culture, totally irrelevant. You're going to starve. That if we do have a back garden, we're in the front garden, then we should do. I met someone in Dublin a few years ago, and the family, she grew up with a family. They had a huge back garden, and they grew spuds, they grew Brussels sprouts, they grew broccoli, all this stuff, right? And they would take turns in growing it, they'd take turns in cooking, and they never ever went to a supermarket. And unfortunately, they had to leave their house for some reason or other and moved into another house, and they didn't have a back garden, enough back garden. Guess what they had to do? Go to the supermarket. And it took her 2 months to get used to it. 2 months. I dare say she's probably got back to growing. I hope she has, growing food again. But it's very good for you to actually grow your own food. And you may say, do you grow your own food? Sorry. I went up to Innisrath about 3 years ago. I was in Dublin and I went up to Innisrath and I helped, which I hated doing, by the way. Mode of goodness is probably in the beginning, nectar at the end. So I hated, I was helping to plant some vegetables, doing some weeding, and I hated it, And then I helped with the cows, which I like that, But when it came back, people looked at me, oh yeah, we were eating food we grew ourselves. And they looked at me and said, you look totally different. And that was only a week. So this is how artificial, how unnatural it is to live in a city. Totally unnatural. So the essence of Krishna consciousness is simple living and high thinking. And what we should be doing, many things we should be doing, but main things is, one, we should be establishing farm communities, growing our own food. And if we're not preaching in the city centre, if we're not preaching, or if we're not we can have jobs and give money to the movement, but if you're not doing any of that, you might as well go to a farm if you can find one. I mean, there's one being there's one in Israth, and there's one in Leicester, in which is going to be developed over the next decade, which should be very exciting, be very good. That's very good. So that option will be there, you know, and it should be a viable option. You shouldn't have to slog day and night in the city paying. Do you have to pay poll tax in? Not in Ireland. In England, you have to pay poll tax. Total invasion of privacy, and they have to pay. If you've got 2 rooms in your bedroom, let's say you've got a house and you've got 3 bedrooms in the house. It's your house, right? You have to pay tax on the 2 bedrooms you're not using. Isn't that incredible? Do you know what? To stop you from subletting. They're doing it because people sublet, so they're trying to for subletting. But some people don't sublet. Most people do. You don't want strangers in your house. And so bedrooms, well, you pay for the house. Whether you had to pay for the size of the window, the more tax you had to pay. Absolutely crazy. Talk about exploitation of the population government. Talk back to Bhagavatam. Bhagavatam says the people will be so harassed. It's referring to the male members, because the government they'll be no better than thieves and robbers. They'll be taking away your wives, they'll be taking away your property, and basically you'll get to the hill. You'll have no pastoral take to the hills. I can see that day coming. And then there's people who live in the forest. You know. I met one guy who was homeless. He says he lives in the forest because he would get attacked, so he stayed in the forest. And obviously there's people who live off grid, people who haven't got any culture, any spiritual culture. They've got some culture because, you know, at least they live. Anyway, Mary, and that's a simple person's life, you know, and he thinks there's nothing wrong with it until he's fortunate enough to come across these books, and then he may the lights will be switched on, you know, if he's fortunate. So this is the point that we don't get away with anything, and like I say, when we engage in spiritual culture, this spiritual process, like back to yoga, then that wheel of sinful, you know, activity is spinning around. But when we engage in the spiritual process, it starts to slow down, but eventually it stops. And when it stops, and the results of all your sinful activity have been dissipated, then you get the mercy of Krishna. As simple as that, because you qualified. The activities are no more. There's no more obstacles. So spiritual life, it can happen quickly, or it will happen when it happens at the end of the day. But we must be patient, because, you know, we're living in the mode of passion, and we want a quick fix solution to everything. Quick. But in spiritual life, we must be patient and wait. And also, Krishna, he'll act, and he'll act in his time. And then, so when we're patient, we'll see Krishna acting in our lives. If we're impatient, then we'll miss it. We'll miss it. Very simple as that. Any questions?
When one has discovered that this Maya or this illusion, what is left afterwards?
After illusion, which means?
Yes, after the realization of illusion, of a lot of things which are illusion.
My understanding is, the more you progress in spiritual life, the less you will relate to Maya. Because also at this present moment of time, we're totally in Maya, even though we're reading Bhagavatam, but because we're in this bodily concept of life, we've been in it since time immemorial. We've been relating to the body since time immemorial. And we haven't been listening within, we haven't been listening to the super soul, we haven't been listening to the super soul's directions. One says we're totally in Maya, but once we start listening to the Bhagavatam, to the instructions of a pure devotee, then gradually we start becoming detached from the bodily concept of life, and that's gradual. It's gradual, and you learn not to, like in Bhagavad Gita says, why do if we meditate on the objects of the senses and pretend we're a great devotee, then we're just a cheater, right? So you learn not to meditate on, you go out, you can be walking in the street, watching the people, this or whatever, and you just learn not to meditate on that. You learn to see the people, the living entity. Well, first of all, they're spiritual sparks of God inhabiting a body made of the super soul and the soul are in that body which is made of flesh, and it's the soul is covered by a subtle body and then a gross body. So you learn to perceive that. That's like mode of goodness vision. This to perceive that God's behind everything. That there's an individual soul in the body, and there's an individual, and obviously there's a super soul in the body. And Maya would be to, I want to enjoy that body. Oh, that body's in the beauty. Because we cannot possibly enjoy separately from Krishna. We can't. Because what is that body anyway? One, it's temporary. And it's made of dead, in one sense, made of dead matter, which will get old, get diseased, and die anyway. And we don't belong to that. We don't belong to it. It's very powerful because we've been here since time immemorial. The thing that keeps us is the attraction. But the attraction is the basic principle of material existence. And that's why we're here. And that's there even in this day of sex, gender, all these things, non-specific sex, gender, all this sort of stuff. I'm sorry, that principle, whether heterosexual, homosexual, bisexual, transsexual, whatever sexual we are, that principle is still there. Because we all need relationships. And that relationship will be dominated and predominated. And that'll be the relationship. Someone's going to dominate. But if we learn to surrender to the Supreme, who can relate with us perfectly, this is the point. Krishna can relate with us perfectly. We won't get that perfection in the material world because it's an imperfect situation. It's imperfect. You won't get that situation. Well, it's temporary and it's imperfect. How are you going to get that situation? It's not going to happen. It may happen for a few seconds, a few moments, a few years, a few, whatever, but then it will change. Something will happen, something will change. You may have a relationship and it's going really well and then all of a sudden one of you dies. Or you may have a relationship that's going particularly well and all of a sudden someone says, I don't love you anymore. Bye. I'm just saying. In scripture it says, relationships end for two reasons. One, death, or change of heart. The heart's very fickle. That's it, but that's all I can say. Anyway. Hare Krishna. What is Maya? What is Maya? So to find someone else really attractive, you can do crazy things for, people have done crazy things for this illusion of attraction, crazy things. But if we do it for Krishna, you're on safe ground. If Krishna is your own sake, right? Everyone will benefit. And also with relationships, it's an exclusion thing, you know. Whereas if you're in love, if you develop love for Krishna, it's inclusive, everyone benefits. Everyone benefited by the presence of Srila Prabhupada on this earth, everyone benefited, directly or indirectly. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, this is my belief anyway, when Prabhupada was on this planet, there's an amazing upsurge in drama, in the arts. You know, it was amazing. They're very innovative, things were happening because there's real purity on the planet. That's I honestly believe that. And then since Prabhupada went, it's like it started going down. Because Prabhupada's main thing was we're impersonal. We treat each other impersonally. We don't believe there's a God. We think everyone's God or whatever. And one thing I noticed was, especially in films, there was no character in modern films, no character development whatsoever. That's just a thing of the past. It's like forget it, because people can't relate to one another. Because it's all the internet and all games and all this stuff. They can't relate. They've forgotten how to relate to each other. So if they've forgotten how to relate to each other, when they see it in a film, they won't be able to relate to it. Do you get my point? They're going to be aliens to them. So when I was growing up, you had relationships with people, and you went to the park, you climbed trees, you played football, you played silly games, you played tricks on one another, you were wrestling, all this, and that was our playtime. I don't know people that they just spend their lives on computers with groups of other people. They'll never meet. Might meet once a week. That's like strange, That's how some people grow up. Anyway, Krishna. So again, going back to Maya. Maya's very powerful. She's the shadow potency of Krishna. But wherever there's Krishna, Maya cannot stand. There'll be no Maya. But Prabhupada says we're not, as Westerners, we like to change things, and we're not afraid enough of Maya. And what's Maya's job? To cover us over and drag us down, and she'll make you think black is white and white is black. She's that powerful. You can be doing something totally stupid and you think it's okay. That's how powerful she is. So we should, when we come before the deities, we should be praying to Srimad Radharani or Lord Chaitanya. We should be praying, please don't let me fall down. Please don't let me fall away. That's what we should be praying, because that's how powerful Maya is. Why? Because once we get love of Krishna is purchased, and love of God isn't cheap. That's why Maya is very powerful, because God's, love of God isn't cheap. And her job is to keep us away until we're ready, until we're qualified. And we got to want to be qualified with determination. If you want something, if you want to be the best boxer in the world, then you've got to be determined. I think there was this Tyson, that was it, Tyson. So Muhammad Ali, who actually met Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj, he had a fight with one boxer, I think it was Larry Holmes, and Muhammad Ali, he was getting too old, basically. He should have retired much earlier. He was getting too old, and basically Holmes beat him, And so this Mike Tyson, who was 16, and he saw this, and Muhammad Ali was the hero for everyone, every young black kid. Muhammad Ali was the hero. Beat this guy. I was to beat this Larry Holmes into a pulp. He actually did it. Desire. So my point, if we got that desire towards Krishna to actually, go back to the spiritual world and have that love of Krishna, if we got that desire, that much desire, then we'll do it. We'll meet the Krishna will arrange, because whatever you desire, material energy will make arrangements, or Krishna will make arrangements for it to be fulfilled. So all we have to do is awaken that desire to have love of God, and then arrangements will be made. You know? Hare Krishna, thank you. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? Hare Krishna. Okay. I've spoken for that now. Okay? Thank you very much. Hare Krishna, Srimad Bhagavatam ki.